All right. So welcome to the February webinar from the English Language Testing Society. And our topic today is artificial intelligence and assessment. And this is a seminar and discussion. And very much I want to emphasize the fact that this is a discussion. I am in no way claiming to be any kind of expert. I will share just a few things very quickly, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a series of discussion questions I'll put you in smaller groups, and I'd like you to take about 5 minutes to discuss in your group, then come back and you can report what you learned from your group to the general group. And again, if you could, I'm sorry, I'm still getting some feedback. Please mute. If you are not muted, could you please mute? I hope that's better. Well, still getting it. If you don't know how to mute, maybe. I think we've done it now. Wonderful. All right. I'm just going to tell you a quick story about my own experience, because I've been teaching a course in language assessment theory for teachers in training. Essentially, it's in an MA TESOL program. So these are pre-service teachers. They're doing a course on language assessment. I assigned for the midterm in one of their big projects. I would say I got about, which was the first time I saw anything lengthy that they had turned in. I'd say I got about 25% of them used AI that I could detect. About 25% of them used AI to answer the questions. Now, how am I so sure that they used AI? Well, I'm not completely sure, and none of us can be completely sure. But I do feel it's relatively easily detectable, because it just didn't look like student writing, and it certainly didn't look like L2 student writing. It looked like beautiful, perfect, published writing. It didn't look like any other writing that they had done for my course. And most importantly, it did not answer the specifics of my questions. It sort of took keywords in the questions and gave me some very vague and general information about those concepts without being able to specifically answer my question. And also, it did not, in all of these cases, it did not tie in to anything that we discussed in our course, in the lectures, in the discussions, or anything that was in the textbook. Did not make any references to any of that material. It was just sort of general, vague stuff that was probably most likely pulled off the internet somewhere. That's my very limited experience with AI that I'm going to share just as a kind of a warm-up. I hope that everyone's had time to read the article, or at least glance at it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some breakout rooms. We have 24 participants today. Okay. And I'm going to create 5 minutes for each of these questions. So let's go ahead and look at our first question, which is, what's the threat of AI to assessment? What are the dangers of AI to assessment? So I'll give you about 5 minutes to discuss these in your groups. And then when you, maybe if you want, I don't know how your groups will work, if you want to have someone taking notes, or it doesn't matter, but I'd like you to be able to sort of present your ideas to the group when you come back. All right, so let me go ahead and open those rooms, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right. I'm getting a message saying I'm muted, but I hope people can hear me. Let's just hear from you. Everyone can hear me, right?
Yes.
Great. Let's just go ahead and hear from you. What's the threat of AI to assessment, and what are the dangers? Sort of threat and dangers go together, right? Anyone? Yes, Beatrice, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much for hosting this event, and I think it is worth to have this discussion like seriously. Um, the people in my breakout room, all of us have lived exactly the same experience that you have shared. Like we have these students that cannot really perform in classes. That's what my experience, and all of a sudden they are sending you these beautiful, perfect essays or paragraphs or whatever. So for us is that we are, if we accept these assignments, we are creating these environment where cheating and plagiarism and lack of responsibility is going to be, developed. So there are many things that we can do. We can change instead of like assessing the final product. We can focus on the process probably. And one of the teachers that were with me, she suggested that her students can use ChatGPT to improve their speaking. No, because there is this microphone that they can use. However, for me, the most serious thing is this: that we are, if we don't do something and we don't do something like really definite, like very strong, it we can we can let our students know that being dishonest is acceptable, and I don't think we should do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And any comments to that or any other comments in general?
I'd like to just say, I know people are really concerned about cheating and things like that, but even before AI was a central player in education, just a year and a half or 2 years ago, 50% of college students cheated anyway. I mean, like, that was already an issue. So I don't think just having, I mean, AI makes it easier for them, but in at least in our group, I think we've said, like, you can't stop them from using it, and we just need to incorporate it, maybe look at it in a different way. Yeah, it's going to be a total threat or danger to any kind of regular assessments that we have now that don't take that in consideration. But yeah, but I think we have to move forward, because this is what they're going to be doing in their jobs in the future when they graduate or when they finish. So why should we tell them don't use it?
Thank you, Beth. And Jeremy has his hand raised. And Jeremy, before I just want to say, because I'm screen sharing, I don't see everyone's pain. So if you want to raise your hand, that's fine. If you just want to shout out, that's good too. It doesn't matter. So Jeremy, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like I work a lot with native and non-native speakers, and native speakers are using, I feel like, are mostly using ChatGPT to some extent, and there are, like, I think it's like just a little bit, I'm a little bit cautious to I guess label it as cheating, maybe, and also it puts our like second language learners at a disadvantage if we're really prohibiting them from using it, because it can have a lot of really productive uses too. I'm struggling with it as somebody in charge of assessment and as a teacher, and it's dramatically changed how I can assess things in my classes and what I have to do. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's very complicated, and it is like something other professionals I know are using it to write emails and things, and I don't know, it can be a help and a real challenge for students.
Thank you. Any comments to that before we go on? Kabe, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, everyone. I personally believe that as an English language teacher, instructor, I'm talking on the behalf of myself and the community I'm working. Probably we are not well aware of AI, or we do not have enough expertise and enough knowledge of, let's say, AI. And to be honest, our students are, let's say, more well aware, they are more educated at this area. Probably one of the issues we will have, there is a differences in a level of awareness between teachers and students. And the second point is still there is no any, let's say, software, any program which can genuinely show that whether, let's say, any pieces of writing have been written by AI or not, because it is disputable, and everything you show for the AI, it says that, yes, I have written this piece of, let's say, writing. These are the issues, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you. Patricia, who shares my last name. I wonder, and she's got her camera off. I don't know who she is. Patricia, why don't you go ahead?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Michael. Yes. I guess I take a different position. I do agree with what I believe that was Beth Weens, who stated that even before AI existed, college students, high school students, students in general always cheated. I see AI as just another challenge that we as knowledge dispensers can once again overcome. It's going to take some time, but we will overcome it, given that we are open to learning how to use AI and manipulate it in our favor as knowledge dispensers. Because I will say, no matter how much students go online and print out term papers or short reports, when they get into my classroom, I still test them. I may give them a 15 to 20-minute writing exercise. That is always the show and tell for me. So yes, I've started working with AI. I'm determined to get past my fear, trepidation of working with this new piece of technology, AI, because I'm confident that in the end, as a teacher, as an educator, once again, a knowledge dispenser, I will override this. We as educators will override this and manipulate AI into our favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Margaret.
Yes, I agree with everything that people have said, but I think what has been interesting is that it forces us to be more thoughtful about the way we assess and not leave it to them to do it at home or to somehow change our assessments. And perhaps they will be more effective assessments if we can figure out how to do them in class or have interactive types of assessments going on. It may improve our assessment, because I really am concerned about the threat of it. But I think it's up to us to try to figure out other ways of doing it. And I think the article that you sent us does discuss that possibility, and I think we need to explore it. Because I'm upset about it too.
Yeah, I want to just, I know there's some other hands up, but I want to kind of build on Margaret's comment before we go on, and maybe other people can comment on that idea, because you know what Margaret's saying, we have to rethink the way that we assess. Well, obviously, if we're bombarded with, you know, plagiarized work, then we're not really assessing anything. But a lot of the suggestions that I've heard are kind of like going back to the sort of in-class assessments, like timed writing in class, that are problematic in themselves for very different reasons. And I wonder if anyone has an answer to that. What can we do to solve this problem of AI without just kind of re-inheriting an old set of problems that we worked so hard to get over? Problems of authenticity, problems of validity when we give these. I mean, what we're probably talking about in many cases here is writing. I think that's probably the biggest issue with AI. So just to hear your opinions on that, what can we do? And please just shout out. I see so many hands up now. I can't really respond to them all. What can we do without invalidating ourselves in other ways, I guess is the question.
If you allow me, I'm an English teacher. I teach in Bolivia. English is a foreign language. And I feel I have not found the best way to use, for example, ChatGPT in my classes without damaging the process of acquiring a foreign language, right? Considering that they also have difficulties with their L1s and L2s, usually English, maybe the L3 and sometimes the L4. To me, what I want to do is to focus on a type of assessment that are formative assessment that are going to follow the students every single day, that they're going to be, my assessment is going to be with my students every day. So in my classes, as much as possible, unless I am forced to, we don't have final summative assessment. We don't have exams. We work on portfolios and we work on reflection and we work inside the class and outside the class and collaboratively. And I had to make this big change during COVID-19 because it was really difficult to establish this relationship with students and know them well. So I had to make those changes. However, I cannot imagine myself teaching, for example, physics or biology or something else different from English. Probably I would embrace AI for assessment and for teaching, probably. But right now, where I am, I think it is not useful. I have not found a useful way to use AI. Thank you.
Thank you. And Myrna's had her hand up forever. I'm going to call on Myrna next.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks for your patience too.
Okay, no, it's not a problem. I have a problem with AI in general, not only for assessment, because it leads students to stop thinking. And they're letting the AI do the thinking for them. And we need to focus on how students are thinking whatever they're learning, and to be able to make connections, whether it's in biology or whether it's learning English or another foreign language. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I see Rose and then Soteria.
Yes, I'll try not to be too long. I hope you can hear me. I know that at our college university in the past, we had software that could evaluate whether students plagiarized or not in terms of percentage, but now it's much more difficult because of AI using a mix of sources. I kept thinking about comments that people just made more recently, and they're all just so valid, things that we've used in our classroom. I thought of the level of the learning for the students. If they're intermediate level, I still think that doing short writes, timed writings in class, and group conferencing with the instructor, those are useful to determine where students are at. I think at a more advanced level, being able to know ahead of time their style. It's difficult to grade style, I realize, but as advanced levels, you can tell when a style is quite different than normal. And I think research will always be an amalgamation of many sources coming from different places. I've always had the philosophy of saying, use, like the internet, for example, use the internet and not let the internet use you. So if you want to, let's use AI, but don't let AI use us. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. And I just want to follow up. Something that I've been doing a lot of recently, I do a lot of teaching online too, is having students do short writing assignments right there on the spot. They're not graded, so we're kind of going outside of assessment now, right? But I allow them to share their screens, and we co-edit their very short writings. And I do these almost on a daily basis, and I think there's a lot of learning going on there. So it's one way to sort of circumvent this issue that's come up through the ability of students to use AI and say, I wrote this when we know they didn't. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Soteria, you're muted.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I have actually used AI as assessment tool on both sides. So as a teacher, but also as someone who's creating placement tests and analysis of data and using AI in the placement test for grading students' work and And the beginning, the first years of AI out there and listening about it and reading articles, and actually I learned about it from my students because they all used it. And I was like, wait a minute, why you're in my class if you can write like that? I thought our placement test was wrong. And then they told me what they're doing. I honestly also, I felt like, no, this is cheating, you're not learning, blah, blah. But then I started using too, since English is my second language, and I saw that I could learn and I could use the tool so well. And I say, hold on, all I needed to do with my students, it teach them how to use this tool. And especially now that I've read an article the other day that actually it's estimated that 51% of the employers will require employees to know how to use AI. So for employability, we need to know how, we need to train our students to use AI, not in order to present a fake picture of their level of their abilities, their writing abilities, speaking abilities, but more of as like every other tool, right? The other side of me using AI in assessment is actually because I created an online placement test for ESL programs, and I've done lots of research on reliability and validity, because for me, the thread of AI in assessment was that, again, creating a box, creating like a standardized checklist to streamline everybody and say, oh, this person is like A1 or A2 with just a checklist, just a rubric, and not be able to have an assessment that it doesn't only assess the result, but it assess progress and process and all that. And actually, I've been very, very happy with what AI can do for assessment for the students.
Thank you. Thank you. And Cynthia, maybe you can mute if you don't mind, unless you wanted to say something. All right. Let's go ahead. So thank you everyone for amazing comments. This has so far been a really lively session. So we're going to go ahead to our next question. What are the ethical considerations of using AI in assessment? And you can think about this in any way you'd like. You can apply ethics to teachers, to students, to the model of the class that we use, to AI itself. So again, I'll put you back in your groups for about 5 minutes. Please discuss the ethical considerations, and then we'll hear from all of you when you come back. Oh, that's not, sorry, that's not breakout rooms. All right, I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, I think everyone's joined us again, and welcome to Magda, who joined a bit late. And Magda, I'm sorry you didn't get to visit a breakout room. Again, let's just open the discussion. Anyone who wants to begin, please do so.
See.
May I, Michael?
Please.
Okay, we were saying that it's not easy, thinking about the ethical part, but I feel in my case that I still need to learn a lot from AI to feel more comfortable with it. I believe that in the article you suggested reading, there are many suggestions that we can follow. And if we are going to make an ethical use, and we should show students how to do that. And the example I gave is one of the activities I do, which is ask students to write a short piece and then submit the piece to ChatGPT, and then make it compare the two pieces, and select 1, 2, 3, the most relevant changes that ChatGPT has made to their writings. So I guess that in this way they are making a more ethical use, because they still have how they started and a final product that is improved by using ChatGPT.
I'm sorry, Michael, could you be so kind as to mute the person who has a distracting background, please?
Yeah, let's see if I'm not good at this. Let's see if I can do that. If I can. There we go. There,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry. Rosario.
So what I was saying is we as teachers should find ways to make ethical uses of ChatGPT and teach those ways of those uses to students. Have them actually see what how they are improving. Help them use their critical thinking skills to see how AI can benefit their own learning. And if we do that in class, then we could use that for assessment as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Other comments in response to Rosario or another? Myrna.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to add that students need to be told what the penalties could be in the work world if they do not use AI ethically, and we need to teach them what those penalties could be as we teach them how to use AI in an ethical manner. And employers have many interviews that they put candidates through big time paces before they get a job. And so if they create something that makes them look like a Superman or Superwoman, and then they get to the interview and they're dummies, they could be put on a blacklist. Easy.
Okay.
And the other thing is that AI could be used, since AI can also replicate voices now and also create fake photos. It could create havoc in the workaday world regarding internal politics. If someone doesn't like their boss and they're trying to make them look bad, they could create things with AI. So it just opens up a lot of space for being really making internal company politics even nastier. And so these are some of the things that we need to teach students about AI.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have a comment to Myrna's comment or another comment?
May I?
Please.
Okay, thank you. We were talking in the chat and with the colleagues what ethics mean for us. What does ethics mean for our students? for our colleagues, even in our parents in the whole world. So this is the first step for me. In the classroom, when I used to use the GPT, ask my students, what are the resources when you get this from? Because you can ask a GPT, where are the resources? Where they use? What is the bibliography even the GPT used to get information? Because we need to tell our students, if I use GPT, I'm using another resource. It's not my creation. It's not my points of view. Maybe I got information from somewhere. So I show my students, where do I get the information? In this way, when they start speaking and they use the forum, they express their opinion and they say, where do you get information? Show me. Where do you get information? Look for it in the GPT, but what is the information? Where does it come from? Where are the resources? In this way, when they speak in classes, even though it doesn't matter if it's in the language classes, or maybe because I did biology and other classes too, even physics, in English, okay, English for these careers, they used to read a lot. And I said, but where the information comes from, you need to be real, you need to be honest. Then it means being ethic, because when you're going to do your job, when you're going to work with a company, you need to be honest. And being honest is ethic. Honest with yourself, honest with the people, honest with the world. GPT gives us information, give us a lot of resources, even help us in the diagram in the classes, a lot of resources. But we need to teach our students that we also follow ethics rules in our lives. That's what I need.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gloria, I just want to, think about your comment, which I really appreciate. And you said you're a math and science. Did I hear a math and science teacher, a biology and physics teacher? What was it?
Yeah, because when I have, for example, when I assignment English for physics, I used to study some physics theories and talk with my students in English about physics. So I need to study something about physics. I used to ask my students to share with me their notes, and we talk about their notes. For example, last years I have a financial accounting, and I need to talk with them and share materials based on financial accounting in English. So how to use the language to talk about, how to use the language to read about financial accounting. So we get a lot of information, and we use GPT for this. And my student worked with me using the GPT, and we use the language to talk, because it's the purpose of the different courses. Improve the students' language, how they express themselves, because they are focused on working with other companies, and the companies are requesting the fluency of English in their area. So I need to teach my student how to use English as a resource, as a tool, as well as their materials, their resources, their theory in the language, using the language in their fields.
Okay, very interesting comments, Gloria. And I think we're going to sort of come to that in our next question, but I think Rose might have a comment.
Yeah, I'll try not to be too long. I really appreciated what was said about asking where resources come from. I have to admit, it might be a little long for people to report it. So that answers the accountability part. Where do the resources come from? How does that answer the assessment part? Are we going to be assessing where the resources come from? I was thinking today is Valentine's Day. So if I ask my students to create a poem, for someone tonight, and I say, here are the parameters that I want, and I list the parameters. So I'm going to assess my instructions for the parameters rather than the product, which AI will come up with. So I thought, okay, or should I be asking where all the resources come from as well? So am I assessing both the accountability portion as well as the assessment portion? So that was just my thought in terms of, assessment and ethical means of doing it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I want to just kind of go back to, because that's a very good comment. I want to kind of go back to what Gloria was saying, and then sort of tie that into what Rose is saying. So I mean, Gloria is obviously doing some kind of content-based instruction, and what she's described works very well for her needs. I think many of us are simply teaching pure English to language learners. And what we're concerned about is not the information. I mean, we're not so concerned about the biology as much as we are their ability to express it, to use their own abilities to express those ideas in English, really, right? In other words, what linguistically we could call that constructing meaning. Their ability to construct or to produce meaning in English, regardless of what that content is. And again, that's, you know, Gloria is coming from maybe a slightly different part of our field. And I'm not trying to discount what she's saying. But for many of us, I think that's perhaps less important. So I just wanted to sort of think that's maybe where the dilemma is. I mean, I think what Gloria is saying is really important. But for some of us, that might be sort of a dilemma. And that leads us on to our next question. Actually, we had so many, but you've done so well in discussing that we're not going to have. I'm just going to throw this out. We don't have so much time left, and I want to give a chance to talk about a few more questions. So, and this is really coming on, you know, like if we can just do this as a group instead of going into our small groups. This is really kind of maybe tailgating on what Gloria was just saying. Is writing still necessary in language learning? If we have all of these resources at our disposal, and in their futures, as someone else was saying, I don't remember who, in their futures, they're going to be required to use AI successfully, right? Is writing still necessary? And I know this is very controversial, but I just want to throw this out. Is writing still necessary in language learning? And is writing more necessary in language learning than in general education? So I'm just going to, without breaking into groups, just in the interest of time, I'll just open those questions up.
May I, please? This is Beatriz.
Please.
As an English teacher, I want my students to demonstrate their knowledge when they listen to somebody, when they talk to somebody, when they read something. I want them to interact with the reading, but also I want them to write. I think writing is necessary when they are learning English, but also when they are learning civics, history. And in my country, when you graduate from university, you have to write a thesis. They need to know how to write, sometimes in Spanish, sometimes in English, but you have to write a thesis. When you're just 20, 21 years old, you have not learned how to write in your own language. And at my university, they have to write theses in English. So it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. They need to know how to write. The problem to me is when we use AI and we accept, yeah, okay, they are using it, so let's accept it, let's try to find a way. And if we don't find that way, then we have this problem that we are going to accept whatever they are going to present because they are going to consider it okay. And there are two anecdotes, right? When we're talking about plagiarism, there was this professor that said, I had this student that said, this is my work. And he was, no, it's plagiarized. And she said, no, I copied it and I pasted it myself. So she did not have this idea what she was really doing. And something similar happened to me. I was talking to this colleague about the work of one of her students. I said, this is plagiarized. And she said, no, but just the theory. In the thesis, the results and the discussion, that's okay. So what are we talking about? Writing is essential. The process of writing probably is more essential than the final product at certain point if we're talking about learning a language. But in general education, if they are going to publish their research, well, we have to deal with this. And then probably we're not going to find a solution today, but at least talking about it, I know that we are going to come up with some food for thought and probably find something that's going to suit us. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. And I'll just say that I, for one, am a big believer in process writing. And I completely 110% agree with you that what's necessary in our field is not the product, but the process. Yeah. Patricia, you wanted to say something, I think.
I think, what was her name? The young woman, Beatrice, said a mouthful. I also want to add, first of all, Beatrice, I wholeheartedly agree with you. There is a power involved in writing, expressing your thoughts on paper. And I'm concerned that this generation and the next generation that's coming up is losing or are losing that skill. There is also a power with having something as simple as having a pencil or pen in your hand and expressing your thoughts on paper. That is still a powerful skill. And for us as human beings to lose that skill with each generation, I just see a huge disadvantage for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. And I just want to throw in, I don't want to just take away from other people's time, but I just want to throw in that, you know, if we go back to ancient history, we remember that there was a time when writing was a specialized skill that only very few people possessed. And the masses of people in the world were not able to write. And, you know, and now we've democratized writing, and everyone, practically everyone in most places can read and write, at least to some degree. And yeah, I mean, Patricia, just to again, wholeheartedly agree. If we go back to a time when actually writing well and writing creatively or writing professionally becomes a specialized skill that most of us don't have. I mean, how are we going forward in that scenario? So Margaret, you're muted.
Okay. I think writing, even if it's digital writing on a laptop, even that process can help a learner learn to look at and edit and write maybe more quickly than with a pen and pencil. But I still think the writing process reinforces your language that you're learning and helps you. And as you edit, you can. I look at my own writing that's digital, but I can spot errors when I reread it, and I can go in and make corrections. But so I'm not sort of copying and pasting something from outside. It's still helpful to me to do that digitally, but I still think it's a part of reinforcing their language learning process.
Thank you. And Myrna.
Yes, The Guardian just came out with an article saying that research shows that students learn more by reading on paper, reading books on paper than reading on screens. I just thought I'd mention that for everybody. And if anybody wants it, I can send it in. I can send it to you, Michael, to distribute. I'm going back to my earlier discussion about thinking and developing thinking skills and having people develop arguments using their thinking skills. And writing is the best way to do that. Also, when they get out in the work world and they have to make reports, give presentations, give speeches, or taking notes in meetings, even developing their thoughts in meetings, writing is an essential skill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Last, yeah, please. Someone else?
Me, Gloria.
Gloria, please.
Okay, writing in class is something different when we have a virtual classes, because I have 125 students in one of my classes, virtual classes, and teaching writing is not a piece of cake, especially when those students are just beginning in this process of writing, starting with the complex sentences, joining them into paragraph, and later on into the essays. Five paragraph is simple essays. So using the GPTs help them, since the positive points of view, they find or they get a paragraph. And I ask them, for example, okay, what do you read? What it is about? What do you think? Write your opinion about. So we start writing in order to push them, because it's pushing them to think in English, to think creatively, to think, creating critical thinking. Because as Myrna says, thinking is important. Thinking logically, follow rules, follow a process, but we need to help our students to think, not to cheat, because they think that when they get a GPT or something from internet, is their own paper. It is not true. So you have to force them, even in class or virtual classes, looking for resources, looking for strategies. Even it is a small class or a large class, it depends on the kind of strategy and your objective. How are you going to get your objective? And help the students understand the purpose. Their purpose is how beneficial it is for them to follow the process. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, unfortunately, I really want to thank everyone for their participation. A few of the questions we didn't get to, maybe that you can just think about. Do we see ourselves as in an us versus them situation? Are we in suddenly in a confrontational situation with our students, which is, of course, not where we as teachers want to be? And maybe if we consider this and all the implications that we'll see that no matter what, we really don't want to be in that situation. And another question is, will we win the battle, regardless of who's right and who's wrong? We can all be here today at this webinar and think of ourselves as obviously, we're the right ones here, but are we really going to win this battle against such a drastic change? And then one more thing that as teachers, I think we could all, think about, do you have any rules right now about AI in your class? And if not, what rules would you make to confront this and not to just, hide away and pretend it isn't there and that we're still in 2022 before there was such a thing, really, right? I mean, it exists. We have to confront it. We have to deal with it. What rules would you make in your own classrooms to deal with this situation? So unfortunately, we don't really have time to discuss those, but I just wanted to bring those up. And I guess one more question is, how can we use AI to our own advantage in the classroom? And these were all things that I hope we would have time to discuss today. But thanks to so many wonderful participants, I really, really thank you that we just didn't have time to get to every question. So I'm really happy that our webinar turned out this way. We had so many participants. We had so many people that wanted to share their opinions. So thank you very much. Just from that article. Yes.
Excuse me. Can I just say something quickly?
Sure.
I thank you very much. I'm sorry. I apologize to the group, but I forgot to say something on the last thing that I said. And one of the things that's really disconcerting is that in the school systems, I know in the US this has been happening for a number of years, students have been only taught printing and not script writing. And this, I'm a specialist in cognitive language learning. And so I'm very much into brain stuff and thinking and all that. And when students at a young age only learn printing and not script writing to connect the letters, the brain does not develop certain fundamental cognitive skills that it needs to develop that only script writing can do. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank
Because
you,
this
Myrna.
this goes in with the whole thing about people not thinking anymore. We need to focus on getting them to think. Thank you so much, and I apologize to everybody.
That's
I
fine.
feel-
Thank you, Myrna.
I
Thank
feel
you.
strongly about it. Thank you.
So just
Michael,
for takeaways from that New York Times article, I don't know if you had a chance to read it. Expect all students to use ChatGPT. I think actually it's, in my own experience, I'm going to say about 25%. I could sort of point my finger at and say they were using it. They were just copying and pasting at least. Don't rely on detectors to catch those using it because none of them really work well. Don't focus on warning students, focus on understanding what the technology does well. You may or may not agree with that. That's from the article. And treat this year as a learning experience. I am certainly not an expert, and that's why I really wanted to turn this topic today over to everyone. I don't have much that I can share with you that you don't know already, or you probably know a lot more than I do. Your experiences are a lot different from mine. So those are just some of the four, very quick takeaways. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank the ELTSociety, the English Language Testing Society, for sponsoring today's webinar. Thank you for being here on Valentine's Day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are. Thanks so much for all your participation. And next month, we're going to be doing a workshop on norming and using rubrics. So if you're interested in rubrics and you're interested in norming, which is an essential part of rubric use, and you feel like, well, maybe I just don't know quite as much as I need to know about how to run a norming session, then this is the place to be next month. And I just finally want to suggest that we've invited, this webinar used to be closed to only ELT members. We opened it to anyone who joined our conference last year. And I just want to encourage everyone to, if you're not a member, to join the ELTSociety. There are so many benefits to being a member. So thank you very much. Any closing comments or?
Michael,
Yes.
I'm very much interested in that article from The Guardian that Myrna just mentioned a few minutes ago. Is there any way Myrna could put that link into the chat, or could she?
I actually put the link in the chat. I found it when we were talking. So it's kind of a few messages up, but yeah, but it is in there from me, Eric Moore. Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Please join us in the society.
Michael, I wanted to just, I said this in our small group, but on Coursera, IBM is offering an online course in foundations of generative AI foundations and applications. And it's free. You can take it for free, and it's a few hours. It's actually a 5-part series. But it's very, very good if you're not familiar with AI at all. It's not designed for anybody who knows anything about it. So you can start from zero, and it's still pretty good. So
thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And should I just I'm going to sign out, but should I just leave this open for a few minutes so people can go back to the chat and get those addresses if they want them? Is that
excellent?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again next month, and have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
¿Y está en el Londres
Thank you very much.
Y supuestamente la conversión y todo me dijo a las 4, a las 4, a las 4. Aquí estoy a las 4 y ya se acabó porque fue a las 3. Great.
Y yo